Lord Arthur Savile's Crime. It was Lady Windermere's last reception before Easter, and Bentinck House was even more crowded than usual. 6 cabinet ministers had come on from the Speaker's levee in their stars and ribbons. All the pretty women wore their smartest dresses, and at the end of the picture gallery stood the Princess Sophia of Karlsruhe, a heavy, Tartar-looking lady with tiny black eyes and wonderful emeralds, talking bad French at the top of her voice, and laughing immoderately at everything that was said to her. It was certainly a wonderful medley of people. Gorgeous peeresses chatted affably to violent radicals, popular preachers brushed coattails with eminent sceptics, a perfect bevy of bishops kept following a stout prima donna from room to room. On the staircase stood several Royal Academicians, disguised as artists, and it was said that at one time the supper-room was absolutely crammed with geniuses. In fact, it was one of Lady Windermere's best nights, and the Princess stayed till nearly 11:30. As soon as she had gone, Lady Windermere returned to the picture gallery, where a celebrated political economist was solemnly explaining the scientific theory of music to an indignant virtuoso from Hungary, and began to talk to the Duchess of Paisley. She looked wonderfully beautiful with her grand ivory throat, her large blue forget-me-not eyes, and her heavy coils of golden hair. Or poor they were. Not that pale straw colour that nowadays usurps the gracious name of gold, but such gold as is woven into sunbeams or hidden in strange amber. And they gave to her face something of the frame of a saint, with not a little of the fascination of a sinner. She was a curious psychological study. Early in life she had discovered the important truth that nothing looks so like innocence as an indiscretion, and by a series of reckless escapades, half of them quite harmless, she had acquired all the privileges of a personality. She had more than once changed her husband. Indeed, Debrett credits her with 3 marriages. But as she had never changed her lover, the world had long ago ceased to talk scandal about her. She was now 40 years of age, childless, and with that inordinate passion for pleasure which is the secret of remaining young. Suddenly, she looked eagerly round the room, and said in her clear contralto voice, "Where is my chiromantist?" "Your what, Gladys?" exclaimed the Duchess, giving an involuntary start. "My chiromantist, Duchess. I can't live without him at present." "Dear Gladys, you are always so original," murmured the Duchess, trying to remember what a chiromantist really was, and hoping it was not the same as a chiropodist. "He comes to see my hand twice a week regularly," continued Lady Windermere, "and is most interesting about it." "Good heavens," said the Duchess to herself. "He is a sort of chiropodist after all. How very dreadful. I hope he's a foreigner at any rate. It wouldn't be quite so bad then. I must certainly introduce him to you." "Introduce him?" cried the Duchess. "You don't mean to say he is here?" And she began looking about her for a small tortoise-shell fan and a very tattered lace shawl, so as to be ready to go at a moment's notice. "Of course, he is there. I would not dream of giving a party without him. He tells me I have a pure psychic hand, and that if my thumb had been the least little bit shorter, I should have been a confirmed pessimist and gone into a convent." "Oh, I see," said the Duchess, feeling very much relieved. "He tells fortunes, I suppose." "And misfortunes, too," answered Lady Windermere. "Any amount of them. Next year, for instance, I am in great danger both by land and sea, so I am going to live in a balloon and draw up my dinner in a basket every evening. It is all written down on my little finger, or on the palm of my hand, I forget which." "But surely that is tempting Providence, Gladys." "My dear Duchess, surely Providence can resist temptation by this time. I think everyone should have their hands told once a month, so as to know what not to do. Of course, one does it all the same, but it is so pleasant to be warned. Now, if someone doesn't go and fetch Mr. Podgers at once, I shall have to go myself." "Let me go, Lady Windermere," said a tall, handsome young man who was standing by, listening to the conversation with an amused smile. "Thanks so much, Lord Arthur, but I'm afraid you wouldn't recognise him." "If he is as wonderful as you say, Lady Windermere, I couldn't well miss him. Tell me what he is like, and I'll bring him to you at once." "Well, he's not a bit like a chiromantist. I mean, he's not mysterious or esoteric or romantic-looking. He's a little, stout man with a funny, bald head and great gold-rimmed spectacles, something between a family doctor and a country attorney. I'm really very sorry, but it is not my fault. People are so annoying. All my pianists look exactly like poets, and all my poets look exactly like pianists. And I remember last season asking a most dreadful conspirator to dinner, a man who'd blown up ever so many people, and who always wore a coat of mail and carried a dagger up his shirt sleeve. And do you know that when he came, he looked just like a nice old clergyman and cracked jokes all the evening. Of course, he was very amusing and all that, but I was awfully disappointed. And when I asked him about the coat of mail, he only laughed and said it was far too cold to wear in England. Ah, here is Mr. Podgers. Now, Mr. Podgers, I want you to tell the Duchess of Paisley's hand. Duchess, you must take your glove off. No, not the left hand, the other. Dear Gladys, I really don't think it is quite right, said the Duchess, feebly unbuttoning a rather soiled kid glove. Nothing interesting ever is, said Lady Windermere. On a fait le monde ainsi. But I must introduce you. Duchess, this is Mr. Podgers, my pet chiromantist. Mr. Podgers, this is the Duchess of Paisley, and if you say that she has a larger mountain of the moon than I have, I will never believe in you again. I am sure, Gladys, there is nothing of the kind in my hand, said the Duchess gravely. Your Grace is quite right, said Mr. Podgers, glancing at the little fat hand with its short square fingers. The mountain of the moon is not developed. The line of life, however, is excellent. Kindly bend the wrist. Thank you. 3 distinct lines on the rascette. You will live to a great age, Duchess, and be extremely happy. Ambition, very moderate. Line of intellect, not exaggerated. Line of heart. Now, do be indiscreet, Mr. Podgers, cried Lady Windermere. Nothing would give me greater pleasure, said Mr. Podgers, bowing, if the Duchess ever had been, but I am sorry to say that I see great permanence of affection combined with a strong sense of duty. Pray go on, Mr. Podgers, said the Duchess, looking quite pleased. Economy is not the least of your Grace's virtues, continued Mr. Podgers, and Lady Windermere went off into fits of laughter. Economy is a very good thing, remarked the Duchess complacently. When I married Paisley, he had 11 castles and not a single house fit to live in. And now he has 12 houses and not a single castle, cried Lady Windermere. Well, my dear, said the Duchess, I like comfort, said Mr. Podgers, and modern improvements, and hot water laid on in every bedroom. Your Grace is quite right. Comfort is the only thing our civilization can give us. You have told the Duchess's character admirably, Mr. Podgers, and now you must tell Lady Flora's. And in answer to a nod from the smiling hostess, a tall girl with sandy Scotch hair and high shoulder blades stepped awkwardly from behind the sofa and held out a long, bony hand with spatulate fingers. Ah, a pianist, I see, said Mr. Podgers. An excellent pianist, but perhaps hardly a musician. Very reserved, very honest, and with a great love of animals. Quite true, exclaimed the Duchess, turning to Lady Windermere. Absolutely true. Flora keeps 24 collie dogs at McCluskey, and would turn our townhouse into a menagerie if her father would let her. Well, that is just what I do with my house every Thursday evening, cried Lady Windermere, laughing. Only I like lions better than collie dogs. Your one mistake, Lady Windermere, said Mr. Podgers with a pompous bow. If a woman can't make her mistakes charming, she is only a female, was the answer. But you must read some more hands for us. Come, Sir Thomas, show Mr. Podgers yours. And a genial-looking old gentleman in a white waistcoat came forward and held out a thick, rugged hand with a very long third finger. An adventurous nature. 4 long voyages in the past and one to come. Been shipwrecked 3 times. No, only twice. But in danger of a shipwreck your next journey. A strong conservative, very punctual, and with a passion for collecting curiosities. Had a severe illness between the ages of 16 and 18, was left a fortune when about 30, great aversion to cats and radicals. "Extraordinary!" exclaimed Sir Thomas. "You really must tell my wife's hand, too." "Your second wife's," said Mr. Podgers quietly, still keeping Sir Thomas's hand in his. "Your second wife's."